The Dominican Republic is a small Caribbean island. The government is a representative democracy duly elected. There are over 10 million people. The large majority are poor. 15% live on less than $2 a day. Unemployment is high. Yet there is one industry which over the last decade has provided jobs, opportunity, and growth for the economy. That is microfinance. Microfinance has its birth in the early 1990s, and through small loans by banks and nonprofits, many new businesses were started and others expanded. Today, over 225 institutions are registered in the Dominican Republic as micro-lending vehicles. Approximately 85% of the borrowers are women. The majority of loans are from $500 to $2,000, and most are repaid within 12 to 18 months. There is a very low default rate among the 225 institutions. Centro Dominicano de Desarrollo is a microfinance organization that began in the 1990s. In 1991, we started CDD with a special emphasis on women's projects. CDD was formed by a group of us who we refer to as the founders. We now serve as a board of directors and have a meeting every month. We started CDD as a non-governmental organization. In the 1990s, there was a big crisis in the Dominican Republic economically, and it became clear to us that the government could not be the only way in which people improve their lives. Citizens needed to be responsible and not leave everything to the public sector. In 1990, a group of us, all friends, decided to engage in self-help and form CDD. With the mission to develop the nation, we decided to create this organization that supported small businesses. The founders understood the need for capital. The poor were discriminated against by not having access to it. A lot of people were able to develop their lives through the access to the capital we gave them. To get a loan, the first step is to have a business plan and have started that business for at least 6 months. A business might be a store that sells groceries, clothes, or jewelry, or even a beauty salon. The most important criteria is to be known as a leader in the community. We look for people who will responsibly be able to pay their debt back.
In 2008, my colleague Carl Finck and I visited 2 microfinance projects funded by CDD.
DJ Ricky, dale luz. Ella me lleva, ella me trae, ella me tiene.
Gil is a Dominican man who lives with his wife and son, who is deaf and mute. Gil lives in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Santo Domingo. He used to work for a landscape company until one day he had a great idea. Today, Gil owns a flower pot company, but not just any flower pot company. Gil's is special. Between his wife, son, and himself, Gil collects the skins of coconuts from the trash pits all over Santo Domingo. Those are what he uses as the base for his flower pots. As he told us when we interviewed him, one man's trash is another man's means of making a living. Between Gil and his 2 family members, he makes the wonderful, eco-friendly, self-sustaining flower pots. When we went to interview him, he told us that he was very sorry to tell us that he wasn't working that day. Porque mi madre está muy enferma. His son, by the direction of sign language from Gil, packs the recycled coconut shells inside the handmade wire basket, while Gil is in charge of the metal. While the business seems successful, that must all be relative, because his house is a brick box, dark gray in color, with no windows except for a few pounded-out holes in the walls. His house looks as one of the houses in Baghdad, Iraq looks after one of the American B-16 bombers dropped a 200-pound bomb on it. It is a shell, a skeleton of what it might have been. Even with all these squalors, Gil acts as if a man who has everything in the world would act. Gil is small of stature, maybe 5'5", being generous, yet big of heart. When we asked him what his dream was, all he said was a car. All he wants is a car so that he can bring his pots to all parts of the island. At the end of the interview, I told him that I wanted to bring one back to show my friends and family. And even with a dying mother, a wife, and a deaf and mute son, Gil wouldn't let me pay for it.
I started this business 24 years ago. I started in a company, and the owner brought a type of basket from Costa Rica, and she asked me to make a similar basket. When I saw that it sold, I decided to go on my own and start a business. I sold baskets in the street. Now I'm well known. I'm happy because every day my business gets bigger and I get another client. CDD started helping me 4 years ago. It's been going well. When CDD started to know me, I had no track record or credibility as a borrower, and then one day someone from CDD gave me the first loan, which was 18,000 pesos. Later, I got another loan for 16,000 pesos, And finally, a larger loan of 60,000 pesos. Now I've been able to work more comfortably with the added capital. In the future, my dream is to cover the whole country. Once I get a vehicle, nothing will stop me. I get orders already all over the country. It makes it hard to deliver, and I need a vehicle to make it efficient.
DJ Ricky, ¿cuántos dueños que tiene este mambo? Si ninguno tiene título, el abusador. Dime a ver qué es lo que, dame luz, ¿cómo es? ¿Te quiere?
Across town, Kara and I visited another microfinance project where it was entirely different but equally successful. Maria would have never had a substantial business without financial support.
I have been a client of CDD for 15 years. I started with a friend who was a stylist, and after 5 or 6 years, we set up separate businesses. I have 2 employees. I love beauty, and I was born with this skill and love of it. Also, it is a good way for me to make a living. I have loved doing hair since I was a kid. Then I saw that I could make this my profession. I was passionate. The loans have pushed me to expand my businesses. I have built a second story on my house for my business and even started a generator business with the loans. For me, CDD is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Otherwise, I would not have had enough to grow the business. The first loan was 60,000 pesos, then 100,000 pesos more recently. Without the loan, I would not have been able to expand at all. It was critical, and there are not many ways for small businesses to get loans in the Dominican Republic. Without CDD, I am nobody.
Kara and I are both entrepreneurs at heart. We hope someday to start a business together. Kara and I will have an education that was not available to Gail and Maria. And we may have more capital in the U.S. available to us. But we will need the same level of passion and commitment that the employees of CDD have and that Gail and Maria exhibit every day.
El de music. Alómbralo. El fuerte. Acabó con todo. Ponte pa' mí. Voy. Me quedo dando vueltas en mi habitación. Me encuentro solo con mi televisión. Me encuentro grande hasta mi colchón. Y va sufriendo mi corazón. Yo busco un refugio pero no encontré. Porque mujer nunca te olvidé. Pero con pena da mi situación. Está sufriendo mi corazón. Porque tú no estás pa' mí. Porque tú no estás pa' mí. Porque tú no estás pa' mí. Yo sé que tú no estás pa' mí. Lloro porque tú no